Nodkrai, a land shrouded in ancient secrets that directly tie into the most pivotal events in Teyvat's past, a lot of which have to do with the goddess of the new moon, Columbina, also known as Kutar or the Moon Maiden by the Frost Moon Scions, though it is worth noting that neither of these is her true name. Not even she knows her true name, since she was supposedly never given one upon her birth. Now, it is difficult to discuss the Moon Maiden without also mentioning her devout worshippers, the Frost Moon Scions, for not only does their lineage trace back to the era of her predecessors, Arya, Sonnet, and Kanon, but it was also the Frost Moon Scions' moon chanter 5 centuries ago who bore witness to Columbina's birth on Hisi Island. Furthermore, the Frost Moon Scions themselves exemplify the incredible overlap of history that can be observed in Nodkrai. East of their territory is the lawless town of Nasha, where its inhabitants, hailing from all walks of life, have learned to subdue the land, harnessing the Kuuvahki energy that once belonged to the ancient dragons to forge great technological advancements in machinery, while the Scions themselves still preserve their ancestors' culture, providing a glimpse into the golden realm of Hyperborea with architecture closely resembling the first civilization ruins found in Byakuyakoku. Yet, buried beneath all these human settlements lie the remnants of an even older era, the civilization of Natlantia that belonged to the Pyro-sovereign Xiquotl, who himself played no small part during the time of the 3 heavenly moons. All these different layers of time have accumulated here in this borderland at the edge of Teyvat, shaping the story we see today. Thus, understanding these elements will be crucial to recognizing the importance of Columbina's role in the future, along with the extremely valuable power she possesses, Kuuvahki. Before I delve into the amazing science behind Kuuvahki and the moons, I have a word from the amazing sponsors of this video, Tokyo Treat and Sakurako. If you want to try out some of the absolute best authentic and traditional Japanese snacks, then Tokyo Treat and Sakurako have got your back, since their mission is to help you experience the best of Japan's fresh seasonal flavors from anywhere in the world and delivered straight to your doorstep. Starting with Tokyo Treat, it's a fun subscription-based snack box that delivers a taste of Japan's ever-changing snack culture straight to you. Every month features a brand new theme inspired by Japan's current celebrations, holidays, or seasonal events, so you're not just getting random treats, but a full experience built around that specific time of the year. What makes Tokyo Treat so special to me is how it captures the excitement of Japanese snack trends in real time. Each box includes exclusive limited edition items that are only produced during that month's seasonal period. The same ones folks in Japan rush to buy before they're gone. So, when you open a Tokyo Treat box, you're not just enjoying Japanese snacks, you're participating in Japan's living snack culture as if you were actually there. For example, you can expect to find new limited edition Kit Kats every single month, along with a wide assortment of delicious and creative Japanese treats that range from sweet and chewy to salty and savory, all tied neatly to that month's theme. And to top it off, every Tokyo Treat box includes a beautifully designed booklet that introduces every snack, explains any potential allergies, and dives into fun bits of Japanese pop culture, customs, and festival traditions. It's the kind of small detail that makes the whole experience feel thoughtful, educational, and genuinely fun, a perfect way to immerse yourself in Japan's modern flavor scene. Now, if you're someone who leans towards a more traditional and refined taste, things like handcrafted pastries, wagashi, and artisanal teas, then Sakurako is the perfect companion. While Tokyo Treat celebrates the modern, colorful side of Japan, Sakurako focuses on the calm, elegant beauty of its traditions. Each month, the Sakurako box is built around Japan's natural seasons and cultural themes, showcasing the work of local artisans who continue to preserve their craft through generations. As a tea enthusiast myself, I find the tea selections in every Sakurako box to be something truly special. They always include a carefully chosen tea that pairs perfectly with the flavors and atmosphere of the month, letting you relax, sip, and savor every detail of the box while feeling connected to the peaceful rhythm of traditional Japanese life. What I also love is how Sakurako always adds something extra, a small but meaningful piece of Japanese homeware or tableware made by local craftsmen. Whether it's a ceramic cup, a small plate, or another popular handicraft item, it transforms the experience from just trying new snacks to actually getting a very useful souvenir. These are items that you will find useful long after the snacks are gone. And just like Tokyo Treat, Sakurako includes a gorgeous detailed booklet each month that walks you through every snack and tea while also sharing stories about Japan's heritage, traditional festivals, and cultural symbolism. Every new box tells a unique story through taste, texture, and artistry. Whether you want to experience the energetic pop culture side of Japan through Tokyo Treat or the elegant handicrafted beauty of its traditions through Sakurako, both boxes are fantastic ways to enjoy the heart and soul of Japanese snacks right from your home. And if you ever wish to skip a month, you can easily pause or cancel anytime with no problem. So, if you'd like to experience Japan's seasonal magic for yourself, use code MYNAME4NOW on the screen right now for $5 off on your first Tokyo Treat or Sakurako orders through my links in the description, and enjoy your own taste of Japan's changing seasons. With that said and done, huge thanks to Tokyo Treat and Sakurako for sponsoring this video. Now then, let's get back to Teyvat's moons, shall we? In principle, Kuuvahki, which means moon power in Finnish, operates almost identically to the concept of electromagnetism, which was primarily developed during the mid-1800s by Michael Faraday and James Maxwell, who also happen to be two of my favorite historical figures, all things considered. They were pretty chill guys. The four mathematical laws that Maxwell formulated for electromagnetism describe how electric charges and currents produce magnetic fields, changing magnetic fields produce electric fields, and together these fields propagate as electromagnetic waves. These electromagnetic waves transfer energy across space and time at the speed of light, carrying it in the form of oscillating electric and magnetic fields that sustain each other as they travel. And depending on the frequency that the waves propagate in, they form different parts of the electromagnetic spectrum, most of which is invisible to the human eye, with the exception of, well, visible light. Now, electromagnetism, being the inspiration for Columbina's power, is not only very clever for a lunar deity, but it also fits perfectly within Genshin Impact's pre-established world building. After all, Columbina and her fellow moons exist because of the Heavenly Father, the monarch of the ancient dragons who originate from the Light Realm. The angel Yualtekuten explained to the traveler how the Primordial One developed Teyvat's elemental energy from the light realm's primordial phlogiston, and both energies in no uncertain terms mirror the properties of electromagnetic waves, something that's especially obvious when you compare the 7 elements to the 7 primary hues of visible light. Knowing this, it makes perfect sense for Kuuvahki to be a fictionalized form of electromagnetism, given how the Dragon King Nibelung should have had dominion over light in its totality, the omni-element symbolized by the Triketra. From this perspective, it is clear that Nibelung created aria, sonnet, and canon with the intention of bestowing his authority over light to them so that they can govern the cycles of the world in his stead. Hence the myriad of symbols throughout Teyvat directly linking the power of the heavenly moons to that of their father, such as this mural left behind by the first civilization of Tsurumi Island, depicting the sisters eclipsing a sun in their syzygy, while stating that the moons are powerful by their borrowed light, the light they reflect from Nibelung, the metaphorical sun of the world. In fact, during their syzygy, the heavenly moons would briefly form a triketra in the sky, which converges into a ring. This is not only symbolic of their father's omni-element, but the ring is itself likely a reference to the Ring of the Nibelung opera that heavily inspires the overarching narrative of the game. As you can see, the connection between electromagnetism and Kuuvahki is extremely well integrated into the lore, and I am just getting started since the mastery of Kuuvahki isn't exclusive to Columbina and her fellow moon goddesses. Their Kuhenki familiars, for instance, are Seelie-like creatures that can inherently manipulate Kuuvahki. Speaking of the Kuuvahki, have you noticed how they have large ears resembling rabbits and bunnies? This cute design choice is definitely intentional, since rabbits are commonly associated with the moon, especially in East Asian mythologies. One of the most noteworthy attributes of the Kuuvahki is their ability to travel through these Kuuvahki paths known as moon lanes, which are similar in functionality to the phlogiston spiritways found in Natlan. I am highlighting these parallels between spiritways and moon lanes because they are surprisingly very relevant to the lore of the dragons, moons, and Columbina, in addition to the world building of Genshin Impact. But in order to properly convey this concept, I have to touch on a topic that isn't sufficiently explained to people, even though it really should be. Most of you already know that electromagnetic waves span a continuous spectrum commonly divided into 7 regions: radio waves, microwaves, infrared, visible light, ultraviolet, X-rays, and gamma rays, arranged from longest to shortest wavelength. Now, since the speed of all electromagnetic waves is constant in vacuum at approximately 299.8 million meters per second, then all of the aforementioned waves are nothing more than different frequencies of light. It's just that most of the light spectrum is invisible to humans. On Teyvat, you can think of these invisible light waves akin to elemental traces that ordinary humans cannot perceive, but which are otherwise visible to those who possess elemental sight through third eyes like visions or moon wheels. The takeaway from this is that when people think about radio waves in their day-to-day life, the first thing that comes to mind is probably not light. This is because information carried through radio light waves is commonly demodulated back into audio that we hear as sound waves with our ears. The keyword here is information. You see, the mechanism by which electromagnetic signals are changed into acoustic signals is called signal conversion, and it is possible because light itself can carry information. Something that I recognize might sound a bit nebulous without practical examples. But all you really have to do to see my point of view is opening your eyes. No, seriously, just open your eyes and look around. Eyes are biological transducers that utilize photoreceptor cells to function as signal converters by processing information carried through light into electrical signals that are sent to the brain. The brain then interprets this information, allowing us to see and respond to our environment. Another example is the phones and computers that many of you are using right now to watch this very video, as they mostly exchange digital data in the form of radio wave and microwave light, especially when they're wireless. Here, it's worth noting that microwaves are themselves a subset of radio waves, since microwaves simply refer to the higher frequency region of radio light. Your device converts the information carried by these microwaves into video and audio format, resulting in what you are watching on your screen right now. The information on your screen is then converted into visible light that your eyes converts into electrical signals which your brain can understand. It's really funny when you think about it, because you start with microwave light that carries digital data to your screen, then visible light which transfers that data to you. So it's different wavelengths of light, but it's all just light. Now, since all microwaves are radio waves, then yes, whenever you turn on your microwave oven, you are technically using high-intensity radio light to heat your food. So, if you want to be that guy in social gatherings, get some pizza, then ask around if they have a radio dispenser that you can heat it with. Make no mistake, everyone is gonna look at you like you're Ed from Ed, Edd and Eddy, giving you the perfect opportunity to flex your Maxwellian knowledge on those simpletons. This is one of those pretentious science jokes that are not really meant to be funny. It's like telling your wife to get you a cup of dihydrogen monoxide instead of just asking for water. Of course, there are many more examples of light's capacity to carry information, from X-ray light in the medical field to fiber optics which utilize visible light, and even a television's remote control which uses infrared light. The list goes on and on. I know that most of what I said isn't exactly news to anyone, at least it shouldn't be. However, this isn't a topic that people discuss very often, which is why it's important to remind everyone what light is and what it can do, since this type of knowledge can be very useful in helping people see, pun intended, how the world around them works. Electromagnetic waves are also extremely valuable in many engineering endeavors, like designing special proteins where we can induce desired reactions by directing a controlled electromagnetic pulse towards parts of the chain structure. But let me not get too ahead of myself. After all, this video is about Teyvat's moons, and while electromagnetism does inspire the moon power found in Nodkrai, what does this lecture I just gave about light have to do with the Phlogiston, Kuuvahki moon lanes, ancient dragons, and Columbina? Well, the heavenly moons, Arya, Sonnet, and Canon, were sovereigns over the night sky, from where they were known to have governed the fate of Teyvat. In that, they are similar to the Greek Moirai, or even the three Rhine maidens from the Ring of the Nibelung. And while we have gotten several hints and clues throughout the years regarding how fate in the sky is connected to that on the earth, we have never been closer to uncovering the precise mechanism through which the moons can control fate. To that end, it's time we talk about a cool tree called Irminsul. According to multiple in-game sources, including the Spantamad and Ratawahist Darshans of the Sumeru Academia, the fate of Teyvat's native inhabitants is directly influenced by the flow of the ley lines around them. And during the Archon Quest bedtime story, Caribert effectively demonstrates this concept to the traveler by showing them how altering the ley lines of a given location can significantly affect the memories of its inhabitants by making them remember things that didn't necessarily happen, or even forget things that did happen, thereby changing how they may behave and respond to a given situation. What Caribert controlled was a prototype for the Abyss Order's Loom of Fate, which the Traveler's sibling later completed and used to reconstruct the ley lines of the fallen kingdom of Khaenri'ah. As for Teyvat's native ley lines, their heart is the world tree Irminsul, an unmistakable counterpart to Yggdrasil from Norse mythology. The name Irminsul itself comes from Old Saxon, where it means Great Pillar, a title befitting its role as Teyvat's Axis Mundi, the sacred pillar of the world that connects heaven and earth. Now, functionally speaking, Irminsul certainly isn't the most conventional tree out there. If anything, it operates more like a planetary supercomputer than any plant. Nonetheless, Irminsul still exhibits many plant-like characteristics that are important to take into consideration. One of the most defining features of plants is their ability to generate their own chemical energy, but more specifically, plants fall under the category of photoautotrophs, which refers to living beings that use light energy to synthesize organic molecules from inorganic substances. This process is also known as photosynthesis, or light synthesis, where simple water and carbon dioxide molecules are used to produce more complex sugars like glucose. And given my emphasis on the role of light in all of this, I am pretty sure you guys already know where this is going. During the Archon Quest, Lost in Prosperity, Al-Haytham explains to the traveler that Irminsul is the source of dendro energy, an unsurprising statement on its own, but one that holds major implications when put into the context of Genshin's world building, while knowing all of the scientific principles I have laid out so far. One of the most intriguing aspects of the dendro element is its direct design connection to light, something that you can observe to a lesser extent with Nefer, who leverages dendro energy to form clone projections of herself. However, this detail is most pronounced in the characters of Al-Haytham and Nahida, whose entire movesets revolve around creating holographic projections and constructs. In fact, the concept of iridescence is so well integrated into the characters of Al-Haytham and Nahida that if one were to completely separate them from the confines of Genshin Impact and present them to an unfamiliar observer, I would argue that it would be difficult for this person to deduce that Al-Haytham and Nahida's abilities are based on nature and plants any more than on something like light or mirrors. This design choice, in my opinion, is really clever, as it takes advantage of plants' reliance on sunlight to add a unique spin to the dendro element. However, aside from just being cool, the fact that the Dendro Archon herself, the god of wisdom, utilizes light in her abilities is enough to tell us something about Irminsul, since Bower is the tree's avatar after all. Plants rely on electromagnetism for several of their physiological functions, one of which is the photolysis of water that takes place in the photosystem II complex of the thylakoid membrane. There, once enough photons are absorbed by colored pigments like chlorophyll, the energy is used to oxidize 2 water molecules into 4 protons, 4 electrons, and an oxygen molecule through electron excitation replacement. This is an example of plants converting energy carried by electromagnetic waves into stored chemical energy as glucose through a series of reactions initiated by light. But, as I said earlier, Irminsul isn't a conventional plant. So, rather than dealing with minerals and sugar, it deals with memories, souls, and elemental energy, which, if you think about it, are all types of information. Memories are information of the past, while souls are information on someone's essence. And the interplay between these two becomes evident once one considers what occurred when Hu Tao sacrificed her life to subdue death from encroaching upon the land of Liyue. As Hu Tao's soul began to drift into Liyue's realm of the dead, which is itself part of Teyvat's greater leyline system, dark root-like markings manifested on her face, likely indicating that the information of her essence was seeping away the closer she moved towards death. Of course, Morax sent the Traveler to save Hu Tao, recognizing that, as someone who hails from beyond Teyvat, their existence bypasses the leyline's mechanisms, allowing them to pull her from the realm of the dead by taking her place in the leyline array, as shown when the root markings got swapped from Hu Tao to the Traveler. Morax knew in advance that this process would have no major adverse effects, since Irminsul did not acknowledge the Traveler to begin with. Thus, it had no precedent to reabsorb their information anyway. Those of you with a keen eye will have noticed that very similar root-like markings also appeared on Inefa's face while Ishraklapuhichuek Buluk was attempting to destroy her memories, her information, so that she could take over her body. This command was ultimately terminated once Inefa obtained her moon wheel, gaining with it a greater ability to control elemental energy. A more ancient form of elemental energy, in fact. Kuuvahki, elemental moonlight that can carry information. Here, I must remind you of what Ualtikuten told the Traveler regarding the elements and how the Primordial One based it on phlogiston. This is a critical detail because Shikwotl's brother, Kukulkan, refers to phlogiston as an atom upon which information may be transcribed and as a form of computronium, an element capable of imitating the essence of all things through the weaving of iridescent inscriptions. Thus, as a reduced form of phlogiston that is more compatible with the human realm, the elements should also possess the capacity to host information. Which brings us back to Irminsul's computational purpose to organize and process all of these different types of information found in its ley lines and use them to influence history and shape the world. We know for a fact that Irminsul does not act with absolute authority. After all, it was Arya, Sonnet, and Kanon who commanded fate in the ancient world. So the question is how? And the answer appears to be Kuuvahki, electromagnetism, light. Remember that since the vast majority of the electromagnetic spectrum is invisible to humans, the same must loosely be true with elemental light. Yet, there exists those such as Huitzilin and Citlali who can perceive colors beyond even those who wield visions. This gift allows them to weave memories like a thread and needle through the fabric of light. And as a descender, the traveler can also see what Huitzilin calls the color of memories, hence their ability to weave information into light. This is precisely why I emphasized light's capacity to carry and transfer information, because given Kuuvahki's clear inspiration from electromagnetism and knowing that electromagnetic radiation is itself the phenomenon of light, then Kuuvahki must also be capable of carrying information just like light. Thus, since Kuuvahki is moon power, then this should be the mechanism through which the heavenly moons issue commands to Irminsul and all leyline trees on Teyvat, the method through which they wove the threads of fate. The obvious comparison here is that the leyline trees are plants which convert moonlight energy into a different form. But to give you another great analogy, consider the heavenly moons as satellites that send digital data through Kuuvahki, akin to how human-made satellites operate with microwaves, and leyline trees as antennas which relay the commands carried by Kuuvahki into the memory database of the leylines. Which finally brings us back to the moon lanes that Columbina's familiars, the Kuhenki, can travel through. The silver and golden threads that make up these moon lanes can be found all over Nodkrai's environment, and they are very similar to Aglaya's golden threads in Amphorius, which is noteworthy since golden threads woven by Mnestia's authority also serve as the internet within Iron Tomb's simulation. I strongly suspect that these parallels were done intentionally by the developers. After all, light is fundamental for the internet's existence, and since electromagnetism inspires Kuuvahki, then the golden threads of Kuuvahki in Nodkrai tie directly back into the analogy of the moons as satellites that send commands in the form of digital data to the leylines, and by extension into Irminsul, which Al-Haytham calls the source of all knowledge on Teyvat. Of course, the heavenly moons can do this because their light is a reflection of their creator, the great father of Genesis, Nibelung, and that applies to Columbina as well. This is perhaps the most impressive aspect of Columbina's character, despite it being slightly overlooked at the moment, for she is a relic of the king of the ancient dragons. Speaking of the ancient dragons, the Sanctum of the Oathbearer, where Columbina was born 500 years ago, is located inside what appears to be a giant electromagnet built by Shikwotl's civilization, and later taken over by the Frostmoon Scions after the fall of their homeland in Hyperborea's Golden City. If I have to take a guess, this structure was likely part of the moon forging project undertaken by Kukulkan and Natlantia's 13 lords, where they attempted to replicate Nibelung's creation of the heavenly moons before Shikwotl ordered them to stop. Kukulkan likely intended for this electromagnet to serve as something akin to a resonance beacon connecting heaven and earth that harnesses Kuuvahki and stabilizes its frequency for the purpose of forging a new moon. Hence, the domain found within the magnetic field suspending the upper pillar, known as the interstice of the nearing moon. In the end, Kukulkan's endeavor led nowhere, as Nibelung's return reignited the war between the ancient dragons and the heavenly principles, leaving the Kuuvahki pillar on Hisi to become the womb for the Frost Moon Goddess's reincarnation as Columbina. The tree known as the Verdant Crest, which witnessed the Frost Moon's rebirth within the pillar's sanctum, is peculiar in itself, as it seems to be a biological conductor, converting the moonlight's data into an organic form, resulting in the life Columbina has today. After all, the ancient dragons were masters of life and evolution. Of course, we know that Hisi Island was part of Natlantia thanks to the underground ruins found there, which clearly belong to the ancient dragons. But there is an even bigger clue you can find in favor of this idea. Once the Traveler and Vernadska go to the interstice of the nearing moon so that they can unseal the sanctum, some iridescent inscription notifications will appear as they ride through the moon lanes with the Kuuvahki. If the Traveler already encountered Kukulkan in the sacred city of Tolan, then the system will greet them as His Majesty, Lord of Light and Wisdom Xiquotl. Alternatively, if the Traveler has Ishlel's Jadeite heart, but has not yet encountered Kukulkan, then they will be greeted as a Dragon Lord Ish Ushulidzi Ibolon Chu'uli'el. The reason Ishlel specifically matters here is that approximately 2,000 years ago, before the legendary craftsman Manku joined forces with the Scarlet-Eyed youth who became the second Pyro Archon, he was employed as an artisan by the tyrant Ochkan. While excavating the old core of Chu'ulel, Manku found himself in front of Ishlel, who took a beautiful human guise and showed him a terrifying vision from the Great War of Vengeance, where countless abyssal shadows reached towards a golden string that came from the moon. This golden string of light and copper that Manku described was more than likely fashioned from the same Kuuvahki threads found all over Nodkrai, and indeed the ones from which moon lanes are made. Just like how the Remurians considered fate as a grand symphony, the Frost Moon Scions believed that these golden threads are the threads of fate woven from the songs of the moon goddesses, and their ancestors from the Golden City spun the Frost Moon's light into threads with which they made the first Fae. However, these threads are not purely magical. They are a product of Kuuvahki, the moon power of Arya, Sonnet, and Kanon. So, what are they exactly? Well, I think the best explanation we can get is by following Kukulkan's description of a phlogiston, where he calls it a computronium atom, a type of programmable matter that is most efficient for computation. Therefore, since phlogiston is matter, while Kuuvahki is electromagnetism, then we suddenly have a perfect wave-particle duality on a quantum microscopic scale, or energy-matter on a macroscopic one. Which means that the Kuuvahki-phlogiston relationship must be a light realm equivalent to this fundamental dynamic of reality, where the ancient dragons define a phlogiston as a computational atom, and Kuuvahki is the waves carrying digital data between computations. In other words, think of a phlogiston or the elements as matter particles, while Kuuvahki or elemental energy are the waves transferring energy and information between those particles. Interestingly, one of Columbina's most useful assets is her ability to teleport herself and others across vast distances, which seems to be inspired by the foundational theory of the electromagnetic sector, known as quantum electrodynamics. In case you haven't heard about it before, quantum electrodynamics is currently considered by many, including myself, as the most accurate theory ever devised by humanity. We are talking about a theory so robust that it generates consistent results within a 1/1,000,000th decimal place. The highest degree of precision in all of human history. So far, at least. Quantum electrodynamics states that matter and light are never truly separate. Particles, like electrons, exist as fluctuating probability waves that interact through electromagnetic fields, collapsing into specific positions only when observed or excited by energy. Columbina's ability to relocate things may in fact be her synchronizing with the frequency of another location and then reconfiguring the wave functions of select entities and objects by collapsing and reforming their quantum state between two positions, effectively relocalizing their existence through resonance rather than motion. If you didn't understand any of what I just said, then all you need to know is that the Frost Moon Goddess is very cool. Yo, this is me from editing. I decided to climb up Hisi's Kuuvahki pillar and I found nothing at all. I am very disappointed. The shiny markings on top are nice, I suppose. Yeah, that's all I wanted to say. Anyway, back to the video. Finally, it is unsurprising that Nodekrai was the site where Kukulkan and the 13 Lords sought to replicate the creation of the moons. At the end of the day, where else would be better than the land that is composed of the remnants which failed to become a moon during Nibelung's original forging of the heavenly moons? And since Columbina was born inside the giant Kuuvahki pillar they constructed on Hisi, then does this mean Columbina's current life is at least partially related to Xicoatl and Kukulkan? You know, it's incredible to think about how Kukulkan is directly responsible for the rise of the first Pyro Archon in the form of Xabalanque, and now the new moon goddess in the form of Columbina. That being said, I know what some of you are thinking right now. If Columbina is a product of the ancient dragons, then why does she look perfectly human? And the reason behind this is something that I will tell you in another video, because we have reached the end of this one. As expected, the lore of Nodekrai is absolutely amazing, with many factions converging from all over Teyvat for the ancient relics of the Primordial One's first civilization, and even the older era of the ancient dragons, and we are only getting started. But with all the lore in Nodekrai, it's actually hard to decide on which topics to cover and which to save for the future. For instance, I initially wanted to make 2 videos about Rerir and the Lightkeepers, but halfway through both of them I realized that it would be wiser to wait for more information in the upcoming versions. Thus, I ultimately chose to do a more generalist yet unique type of video where I discuss the scientific principles behind Genshin Impact's world building, especially with all the new stuff we got about the moons and their Kuuvahki. Before I leave you, I want to once again thank Tokyo Treat and Sakurako for sponsoring this video. They are both extremely good suppliers of delicious, authentic and traditional Japanese snacks, and I always look forward to seeing what they have every month. So check them out in the description and feel free to use code MyNameForNow to support the channel while you're at it. As always, a huge thanks to everyone who already supports the channel on Patreon, and thank you so much for watching till here. For now, I've been MyNameForNow, and I will catch you in the next one. Take care.